Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in Northern Michigan. Thank you so much for listening and all your support. Please subscribe if you haven't. Click on that thumbs up button. It helps spread the podcast. Big news, man. I know you've mostly heard the news about the Malik Beasley is being investigated. There's allegations of gambling and that he did some prop bets and things. And he hasn't been charged yet. And his agent says that he's certainly due process, but it doesn't look good. And what the timing could not be worse. Here we are. So June 30th, which is tomorrow, teams can begin negotiating with other teams' free agents. So as soon as the NBA Finals got over, teams can start negotiating with their own free agents. Beasley was all set to get a 3-year, $42 million contract for the Pistons. It was pretty much a done deal. It wasn't signed yet. So now what happens? Now, obviously, the Pistons can't wait till this investigation is over. This is crunch time so that, they can start negotiating tomorrow at 6 o'clock with other teams' free agents. And on July 6th, they can sign them. And Beasley will not know what the outcome of his investigation is. So, they wouldn't be bringing this up if it wasn't a real good chance that he was in trouble for something. And so these stem from 2023, 2024 when he played for the Bucks. These were not things that he bet on while he was with the Pistons. I mean, that could come up later. But the other big news, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's a free agent from the Minnesota Timberwolves. So everybody loves him. I love him. He is a great, really good three-point shooter. Shot 38%, but he's a tough defender. And we've seen in the playoffs, the teams that won, they have all these guys like the OKC has Caruso and Dort and Cason Wallace, and the Pacers have Nembhard and McConnell and Aaron Nesmith and Shepard. They got all these guards that can defend and shoot the three. So Beasley is not a good defender. So and then you got to throw in there, we got Chaz Lanier coming in. Chaz Lanier, his biggest, but most experts said his comp was Malik Beasley. So they're about the same size. Beasley was a really good athlete, just like Chaz Lanier, but he wasn't a good defender. So we love Beasley. Beasley was phenomenal for us. We would not have had the record. I bet, who knows, we probably would have lost at least 10 more games if we wouldn't have had Beasley. He just was a huge difference maker in so many games that we have these close games and he'd hit 5 threes in a row or something, and then we would win the game. And so he was our second leading scorer after Ivy got hurt. So it's a terrible thing. We all wanted Beasley to be signed. We know that Pistons plans and their financial situation he was a key component of that. Now, so here's a thing that was released by Michael Sciccato. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but according to sources, the Pistons are gauging interest on trading Fontecchio, which I've been talking about for a while. He has an expiring $8.3 million contract. So it's cool. Teams, even if you're a decent team, Fontecchio, he played really good for us at the end of, not this past season, but the season before. And he had some really good times with the Jazz. But teams would want him just to have that expiring contract, and that would create more space for us. So he's attractive for that. And so, with Beasley being gone, with Beasley gambling investigation going on, and the Kings' hot pursuit of Schroeder, which most people are speculating that they were willing to pay him. They're desperate for a point guard, and we're not. We have a point guard, so he would be a backup point guard for Cade, which there's really only, less than 15 minutes or less of playing time. So we're not going to want to pay him like the full MLE, which is like $14 million. So if we lose him, and then if we lose Tim Hardaway Jr., which I've been a big proponent of letting him go and not re-signing him, somebody suggested that we sign him for the minimum and then let him sit on the bench. Well, I don't think he's going to be happy with the minimum or sitting on the bench. But anyway, if we get rid of all those, if we don't get Shooter, Beasley, or Hardaway, and we trade Fontecchio, we have $24 million in cap space. So according to reports, again, rumors, the Hawks and the Pistons are the front runners for signing Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So let it be the Pistons. Let's see now. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if you're listening to this podcast, who would you rather play with, Cade Cunningham or Trae Young? It's a done deal for the Pistons, man. It's not even a contest. He would rather play with Cade Cunningham. So he's 26. He'll be 27, I think, in September. He's 6'5", so he's got good length for a guard. He's a tough, great defender. We talk about this on this podcast about there are shooters and there are shooters, and there's shooters that can shoot quickly, like including Chatlis Lanier, our new second-round draft pick. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker can too. He can shoot quickly, and he has range, and he's a three-point shooter. He's not just a guy that can shoot him when he's wide open. So he's played 82 games in both of the last 2 years, and we know Trajan likes guys that play lots of games. So when we signed Hardaway Jr. and Tobias Harris and Beasley, we got guys that were always healthy. And so he's certainly, when you play 82 games 2 years in a row, that's a great sign. He's in his prime. He's younger than Beasley. He's 2 years younger than Beasley. And so as sad as we are, Beasley brought this joy to our team, and he pumped everybody up. And not only was he great about scoring in those bunches of threes, but he really helped us. But anyway, on the basketball floor, in my guesstimation, because he can shoot good, and he's way better defender. Like I said, those other teams have all these great, the teams that played in the finals had a lot of great defensive players. And so Beasley was kind of a wink link. Teams really were defending him harder at the end of the last season, so his production went a little bit down. And in the playoffs against the Knicks, he struggled really bad. But the teams were really clamping him down, and they made him a priority. And they were grabbing him even away from the ball. So yeah, I'd be excited to get him. I love him. I wasn't sure that we would want to get him if we had Beasley, and I wanted us to use our money for a power forward. So we got to see what happens. So still, if we have 24 million, who knows what we would have to play Walker, and then even the Jazz are getting rid of players. So they just traded Kyle Sexton to the Hornets. The Hornets are going to be better. Sexton, people don't know, he's played 7 years in the league. He's averaged 18.8 points a game for 7 years. And that's not nothing. So he's tough. But John Collins is available. And so the Pistons could try to trade for him. And his trade values diminish. We always talk about Danny Ainge, and he tries to gouge people. But, I don't know what it would take to get him exactly. But they're trying to create playing time for more of their young players. And Collins is older, but he's still that guy that can play the big four. He's a 6'9" guy that can shoot threes, and he can play defense. He can even slide in at the 5 at times. He did, for the Jazz he has. So he would be another guy to sign. I still want Jake LaRavia or Santi Aldama. So Santi Aldama, the Grizzlies just gave him his qualifying offer. So that makes him a restricted free agent. So if we write an offer sheet for him, they can match. But again, that's where the sign and trade comes in. So since they have that over our heads, that if we offered them something that they would want, maybe they would trade it. And they drafted a forward in the first round of the draft just now. So that's another thing to be aware of. So, lots of things are happening. Lots of guys are signing. LeBron picked up his option. LeBron wants to play on a championship team, so we don't know if that means they might trade him, or that means they're first going to try it out, see if they got some guys that they can get to play in. Bobby Portis, a lot of you wanted him. I'm not such a big fan, but he re-signed with the Bucks because they want to keep Giannis. So 3 years, $44 million. So that's a good hefty contract. Jabari Smith Jr., who I loved and would have been a great fit for the Pistons. He's the first guy from his class. That's the same class as Duran and Ivy that they're eligible for extensions. He signed 5 years, $122 million. So we're going to talk about this more, but it's over $24 million a year. We would be thrilled if we got Ivy or Duran for that. So that plays in, that's a negotiating tool where the Pistons can say, this is what he took. He's in your class. He was drafted ahead of you. He was drafted third. Ivy was drafted fifth. And so you know, there, and then there's more comparisons with guards and centers that you have to throw in there. But I would be thrilled out of my mind if we got Ivy and Duran for that cost. So we'll see what happens. But I think their intentions are keeping him. I already announced Naz Reid is out of the picture. He signed 5 years, 125 million. Dorian Finney-Smith looks like he wants to go to the Rockets. The Rockets are just loading up, man. They're just keep on loading up and signing their own players. So another reason that Nickeil Alexander-Walker is available is the Timberwolves. It's a salary cap thing. They want him. They want to keep him badly, but they can't pay everybody. So they're paying Gobert a bunch of money, and they're paying Anthony Edwards a bunch of money, and they're even Jalen. Oh, I forgot his last name now. He's a 6'10" forward that can play defense really good. They're paying him some money, not overly amount, but he's still, anyway, they're over the cap. And then now they just re-signed Naz Reid for $25 million a year for 5 years, and now they just signed Julius Randle for 3 years for $100 million. So that's puts them out of the picture. They have pretty much given up that they're going to sign. And this has been speculated that they probably wouldn't be able to sign the one. They couldn't sign all 3 of those guys, and they probably would let Walker go. So yeah, it's going to be crazy. I'll probably come on tomorrow. So here's the deal. I apologize. I'm driving down to my granddaughter's. I live 3 hours north of Flint, and so I was driving down there. She had a tournament in Flint, and I helped coach, and so I'm driving down to watch her play. And I'm in my car, and there's a notification about breaking news: Malik Beasley. So this is a big national story. The Malik Beasley deal is the gambling allegations. Gambling is such a big thing in our country now, and when you got somebody that's could be cheating or a player that's involved with gambling, that is bad news. If he gets found guilty, he could be banned for life from the NBA. And like I said, it's heartbreaking because he's a cool guy, and he had $42 million coming his way for 3 years. And think about 42 million, that would be generational wealth for his family. So other things, DeAndre Ayton, who, he was like, when they went to the finals with Phoenix, he was the number 3 player on that team. And so and now they're going to buy him out. He's in Portland, and he has $35 million left on his contract. And they did a buyout, so now he's a free agent. Lots of teams are desperate for centers. I don't know if you know that. The Lakers are so desperate for a center, but a lot of other teams are desperate. Phoenix just picked up a center. They got Mark Williams, and then they drafted a center. But Portland, so weird on draft night. Portland already had Klingon, and then they turned around and drafted this Hansen guy, a guy from China that they didn't think he'd go that high, but anyway, they drafted him, and so now they have 2 young centers. And so what are they gonna, I knew something had to be up with Ayton, so this must be talked about behind the scenes for quite a while. So, but I'm excited. We still talked about that. We have those guys coming in. We have some of those undrafted free agents come in, and who knows if they typically don't make a big splash, but they very easily could. Like I said, Chaz Lanier, he is a shooter. He is a shooter like Malik Beasley. He can catch on the move so fast, and he's got a quick release, and he can shoot off the dribble, and he has deep range just like Beasley had. We got Garcia coming in, the 6'11" guy from Minnesota that the Pistons loved him when they did his interview. And he's 6'11", shot 37% at Minnesota, averaged almost 20 points a game. So yeah, there's some guys there. And so we'll see, but hold your breath, man. We want to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and we want to get a 4 that can shoot threes. And so we'll see if that, like you said, Jake LaRavia or Santi Aldama, or who they might come up with. John Collins is another thing that we could get just for a short term. I would think if we got him, it would be a 2-year contract. And so here's the thing, like, we love Tobias, but Tobias could be gone, and he's got 1 year left this next coming year on his contract. And so um, if he resigns, he might have to take a lesser role and less money. And so who knows what he's willing to do and who knows what the Pistons are willing to do. But anyway, things are going crazy. I haven't even talked about, I talked mostly about free agents that um, had something to do with the Pistons in some way. Even like I said, Kyle Sexton going to the Hornets, he shows you that the Jazz are trying to sell off players, which has led to speculation that they're going to try to get rid of John Collins and hopefully for a cheap price. So, oh man, I got home it's like almost midnight, but I'm going to upload this. I hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, I'm going to have my ear to the ground tomorrow. And if something significant happens, like I said, tomorrow at 6 is when the teams can officially start talking. Now, there's always a joke about in past years at 6 o'clock on or whatever the date that you could start negotiating with other teams, free agents. Teams start announcing deals like a minute after they can start. So, teams now are worried about, because I think some teams got penalized for tampering because that is really against the rules. But anyway, I'm going to go to bed. It's about midnight and I'm going to upload this, but I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be on the air, I'm sure, tomorrow at some time. But thank you for listening. Be the reason that someone feels cared for, and go Pistons.